It's not ready yet. There we go. All right. So an official good morning to everybody. If you are sitting in front of me or looking at me or whatever it might be, you should be in EDUC 1302 section Z. We meet every Monday at 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. or noon. And what else should I say? Well, we'll get into it when we get in the course outline. Okay. All right. I know we don't have a full complement of people here, but the show must go on. So for those people that will have missed this morning, the recording will be posted to Google Classroom. Thank you for figuring everything out to get here to do that. In Google Classroom, under class work, there is a section called class videos, and I will post the video after class each day, each Monday. It takes a while for Google to process that video and for things to happen. Sometimes it's 30 minutes and sometimes it's 3 hours. So, but it'll get posted on Monday at some time after our classes on Mondays. Okay. All right. So for those of you who don't know me or who maybe have never had me before, my name is Brad McDermott, and I will be your instructor this term. I've been teaching this class for basically 20 years. So let me just give you a little bit about myself. I come to you with a secondary Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Alberta. My major was Social Studies. My minor was Phys Ed. That got me my first job teaching for the Prince Rupert School District in British Columbia. And I taught on a small fly-in, boat-only fishing village off the coast of west coast of British Columbia. So the only way in was by boat or by plane. There were no roads. I know, kind of sounds crazy, right? And when I first started there were actually no phones. So the only phones, there was one in the band office, a satellite phone, and a satellite phone at the school. But residences, houses did not have phones. Everybody communicated by CB radio. And most of you might be too young to even know what that is. But it was just like a radio that a trucker has in the truck, and they talk to one another kind of idea. So anyways, I taught in that. When I was there, that was my first 2 years of teaching. I taught in a split classroom, grade 7, 8, 9, and 10, all in one classroom on my first year. And so from there, I moved on to Chinook's Edge School District, and I taught in Innisfail at John Wilson Elementary School for, I think it was 8 years, about 8 years, I think. And I taught pretty much everything K to 6 there. And then I moved on to Sylvan Lake to Steffi Waima. And then from there, I moved on to Red Deer Public and took a job at Central Middle School. And then in 2003, which probably most of you were born around that time, I took the job here at RDC. Or RDP now, I guess it's called, right? And so, yeah, like I said, I've been doing this gig for quite a while, and it's been really great. So it just gives you an example of how a person's journey in our education world can go. So I've sort of been all over the place, so it's kind of neat. All right, so that's just a little bit about me. I am going to just bring up the course outline. I thought I had it up there, but it's just right here. So let's do that. Also, every day, you'll see this little black screen. I have an iPad set up. I've got all kinds of screens going on here right now, but I've got an iPad set up. And so when I lecture and we do notes, because we're not face-to-face and there's not a whiteboard to write on, I use my little iPad and a pencil, and I write on it, and we make our notes. And again, because it's recorded, all the notes are there for people to go back and review, or like I said, if you had to miss for some reason, it's all going to be there for you in Google Classroom. Okay, so there's my intro. So now let's talk about the course outline, and then we can get into some of the other things that we need to talk about. But let me just stop there for 1 second, or pause there for 1 second. Does anybody have any initial questions? Everybody's good? Okay. I think I'm going to do just one thing with Google Meet. I'll just open up a brand new Google Meet window just to show you here. I'll just start a new instant meeting. You'll just be able to see, you won't be in it, but I'll just show you what I'm going to talk about here for 1 sec. So at the bottom of the screen here, I'll just turn the video off. You don't need to see me that many times. At the bottom of the screen here are a whole bunch of buttons. Actually, along this whole bottom section is really important. So obviously, I see all of you have, I think all of you've got your mics muted. So that's how you turn your mic on and off. This is how you turn your video feed on or off. Closed captioning, I don't turn that on because we have a recording. Of course, if you have a question, if you're not familiar with Google Meet, if you are, just bear with me, okay? This is the hand. You click that, and then what happens is it gives me a little ding, kind of a note, and then it shows me who's got their hand up on the screen. Okay, if you raise your hand and I'm just rambling on, because sometimes I just get going and keep going and going, just don't be afraid to turn your mic on and go, hey, Brad, I got a question. Or, of course, you can put it in the chat, which we'll get to in a second. Then the last thing, of course, that I'm sure all of you know, but then once I'm finished lecturing and the class is over, you just hit the little red hang up button and then you're out, okay? If we cruise on over here to the bottom corner, what we have, really what's important is the chat window where you can type a message to anyone, right? Now, any messages that get typed before you join the class. So let's say, because I open up the class every morning at 8:50. And if there's messages typed in there, if you join at 8:52, the messages before that you will not see. Okay, so that's just something for you to know. And then the little triangle, square, and circle button in the corner allows me to do a few things like do recording of the classroom and that kind of stuff, but that's more teachery things. So just so you know where the chat is and where all the other buttons are. Now, the other button that you need to, you can do this after class and you can just start your own Google Meet like I did, is to make sure that your computer is able to present. Okay, so that's this little up arrow in the box and it says present now. When you click on it, it'll ask you what you want to present. Generally speaking, the best way I've found to present is your entire screen. If you do a window or a tab, then you are restricted to only that tab. So if I wanted to show you something over here in my drive, I couldn't do that if I said a tab, okay? So entire screen is generally your best option for sharing. And again, you can try that after class. Just set up your own quick little Google Meet and just make sure that you have allowed the microphone and have allowed your video to be presentable in Google Meet. Okay, all right. Any questions about that portion? No, everybody's good. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm just going to close that window. Just a little note about Blackboard. Now that you know how to get here and get to class and where to find the code, because every Monday there'll be a different code, and I'll send it out via Remind and in Google Classroom in the stream. So you can see right here my last posting, or I schedule it so it gets posted. Here it is for today's class. So you can either check the stream in Google Classroom, or you can go to Remind and you can find it in Remind as well. Okay, so that's how you kind of get here and all that jazz. And then from this point forward, you do not need to go back to Blackboard for this class anymore. Okay, everything that we do, if you've read all of the stuff that I've got there in Blackboard, everything that we do is in Google Classroom, right? So the Bachelor of Education program, we use Google for everything, class and teaching related, that kind of idea. Okay, so after today, you don't have to come back here anymore. Well, actually, I'm going to close that all up. All right. Okay, course outline. Let me just bring the course outline over. If you are looking for it, it is in classwork under course admin, and the course outline is there. But I will explain all of this stuff that's on the screen when we do our little classroom tour. Okay, so I'll just bring up the course outline so that you can all see it. I'm just going to pop that open in a different window. There we go. Okay. It's just, there we go. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I know that some of you might have tinier screens, so I'll make it one more bigger. There we go. Okay, so this is an approved course outline approved by the Associate Dean for the School of Education. And as you can see here, we are on, oh man, that's a boo-boo there. There we go. We're on Mondays from 9 to 11:50. We are synchronous. So if you're not familiar with the word synchronous and asynchronous, synchronous means we're live like this. If you take an asynchronous class, that is a class, like if this class is asynchronous, you would have come in this morning, you would have read some instructions, maybe watched a video or two, and then did some work on your own. But there would be no face-to-face interaction like we are doing right now. So asynchronous, really no face-to-face interaction. Synchronous, it's like what we're doing right now. Okay, so again, we're Mondays from 9 a.m. to 11:50, right? Noonish, right? There's a link in here to get to our Remind, but since you're here already, I'm assuming that you've already figured out Remind. Remind is our primary communication method, okay? There were people last term that didn't sign up, literally, believe this or not, till the last day of classes for Remind. So it's really imperative that you sign up for announcements, or I wake up next Monday and I'm sick and I'm canceling class, right? I will send that message via Remind saying, hey, everyone, I'm canceling class today. I'm not feeling very well. Okay. So, or whatever it might be. Okay. And then the other thing that I would also recommend is, if you don't have it already, add the Remind app to your phone. Okay. And then make sure you have your notifications turned on so that it'll ding or beep or whatever it does for you if I do post something to Remind. Okay. And Remind is a tool. And you, as you will see in this class, is this class sort of goes throughout the term, is that the software that I use in this class is software that is used in the K-12 system. Okay. Now, not every classroom and not every school and not every school division uses Remind, but many, many people do. And the beautiful thing about Remind, if you're not familiar with it, is that we can sort of text back and forth using the Remind app. But what's nice, especially from a K-12 teacher's point of view, is that your kids and your parents don't actually have your actual phone number. And so I don't have the parent, I wouldn't have the parents or my students' actual phone number, and vice versa. They don't have mine. So it's really nice to do that. And especially for your own classroom, it's just a great way to communicate. My wife teaches grade 1, and she uses Remind for everything in her school. And she teaches for Wild Rose, which is out of Rocky Mountain House. Okay, so Remind is right here as far as communication goes. Of course, you can always get me via email. I prefer that you email me at your EDU or at my EDU address. Okay, I don't care where your email comes from, what address it comes from, as long as you send it this way. Now, if you send it to my Polytech email address, I do have that forwarded to my EDU address, but for weird reasons that I don't know, is once in a while an email doesn't come through forwarded, and I don't know why that happens. 99% of them do, but every once in a while there's an email from a student or from somebody that is supposed to be forwarded to this EDU address, but it doesn't get there. Now, I do check my Polytech email at least a couple times a week, but if you haven't got a response from me within about 24 hours using whichever method you use, whether it's email or Remind, you should probably nudge me again and try to get a hold of me that way. Okay, I'm usually pretty good about responding almost instantly. If I don't respond instantly, that usually means that A, I'm teaching, B, I'm in a meeting, or I'm tied up some other way. But I usually respond as fast as I possibly can. Now, if you email me late at night, you're probably a good chance that you're going to not get a response till the following morning, and that kind of stuff. So again, 24 hours is a reasonable amount of time. Now, if you're emailing me the night before for an extension on an assignment, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into course outline, you're probably not going to get a response, because again, if you email me at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I'm usually not available. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right. Now, I do have a phone number listed here, but I would recommend that you don't call me because I won't answer because I rarely am actually in my office. And so that would be probably the least best way to get a hold of me. Okay. If we need to meet or you want to meet me and you want to discuss whatever it is that you want to discuss, I am available by appointment. I don't have set, pardon me, I don't have set office hours just because I just find over the length of time that I've been here, is that if I say I have office hours on Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m., and that doesn't work for you, then how are we ever going to meet, right? If I'm only available at a certain time. So, and then of course, if we find a mutually agreeable time, then what we'll do is we'll set up a Google Meet meeting, or if I'm on campus, we can go face to face, and then we can figure out whatever it is that you need, and I can help you with that. Okay. Also, just to remind you that I am the first year. What do they call us? I don't know what they call us. Like almost like your first year mentor, first year helper, first year advisor kind of person. So if you're in first year BEd program and you're having problems with stuff, you can always reach out to me and I can help you with that kind of stuff as well. Okay. My office is, if you're not familiar where the education offices are, you should roam the hallways of the 2600 hallway, and I'm in 2607G. Okay. And if you can't find me when you walk in there, there's always somebody in there that can help you. And of course, my name's Brad McDermott. Okay. All right. So as I'm rambling on here, if there's anything that's on your mind or you have any questions, just again, shout out, put a message in the chat or whatever, and I will stop and try and answer your question. Okay. All right. As far as credits go, you get 3 credits for this class. Okay. Again, we are online and synchronous. Okay, there are no prerequisites for this class and there are no co-requisites. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. So you're all good. Over the span of the term, or by the time you exit this course in April, it seems like a long ways away, but trust me, it'll come up faster than we even want it to. These are the 6 or 8 outcomes, that you should walk away with. So at the end of this class, if you were to go back to the course outline and you were to look at of course, learning outcome number 1, you should be able to go, yep, we did that. Yep, we did that, all the way down the list, number 8. Okay. I'm not going to bore you with these. You can read as well as I can read. So I'm not going to go over these one by one, but definitely be familiar with them. Okay. All right. As far as textbooks go, there is no textbook for this class. I actually took textbooks out quite a few years ago because textbooks are super duper expensive. And so what I do is I provide you with a number of readings on each topic that we are covering during that week. And then you are responsible for reading them, just like you would be responsible for reading a textbook if we had one in this class. Okay. So that should save you, I don't know, 100, 150 bucks at least. So so just stay tuned and I'll show you in Google Classroom where you find the readings and things. Okay. As far as additional resources go, I always put in that you should have a laptop that it's actually a required resource, and it can be any kind of computer as long as it's no older than about 3 years old. And I put this in there because from what I understand is that if it's in the course outline and you're getting funding, you can actually get funding for the technology as well through a student, on your student loan. Okay, so if you're a student who's on a student loan, whenever there's a required technology piece, you should be able to get funding for that. Okay, all right. As far as headphones go, again, kind of a required resource. We won't use them. You maybe use them right now, but like if for every time we have a Google Meet, you can have headphones on and stuff. But we do have one specific assignment later on in the term about screencasting and doing doing almost like online teaching. And you might need headphones for that. So, but you don't need to go out and buy, a $300 pair of headphones. You can use the little ones that came in your, well, I don't even know, do they put headphones in the case of an iPhone anymore? I don't know. But whatever headphones you've got, as long as it's got a microphone, you'd be good to go. Okay. Now, the other documents here that you can see that are linked, these are all things that we will refer to during the term. So we will talk a lot about the programs of study or the Alberta curriculum. And one piece of Alberta curriculum is what they call the ICT curriculum, which is the Information Communication Technology curriculum. It's in the programs of study, just like math and science and social and all the other subjects are. It's there for teachers to access when they want to integrate technology into their teaching. So that, and of course, that's what this whole course is all about. So that's why I give you a quick link to it there. Then, of course, the Teaching Quality Standards document. I'm sure if this is your second semester and you were in the fall, you're an expert on the TQS already. But if you're not, what the Teaching Quality Standards document is a series of competencies that anybody who wants to be a teacher in the province of Alberta must be able to demonstrate that they meet these competencies. Okay, so everything that you get in this class, everything that you get in all of your other education classes, all have a TQS standard or competency that goes with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your assignment or in the lecture or whatever. And so that by the end of the term or end of that class, you will have a way in your e-portfolio or in any other method that you choose to use to show a prospective employer that you have these competencies and that you should hire me, right? So that's the whole idea between the TQS document. There's this learning and technology policy framework that we'll talk about. This framework, specifically directions 1 through 3, are what I don't want to say competencies again, are areas, I guess, where back in 2013, now it seems like a long time ago, but the province, the government at that time went out to parents and to communities and said, what do kids and what do they need? What do kids and teachers need to know to be, use technology effectively in the classroom? So we will take a look at these and talk about these. Also in your e-portfolio under TQS number 6, which is legal policies and frameworks, you could mention this one as well because you're going to be familiar with it. So that could be, this framework could be something that you could use in your e-portfolio as well. Okay, and then of course, this is what your whole life's about from now on, is these programs of study, the Alberta curriculum that the government sets out. By law, you are required to teach the curriculum regardless of what it is that you want to do and what grade you want to do and all that jazz. That curriculum is really, really important for us to know and for you to know, and we will talk about it and use it throughout the term. So if you're not familiar with it yet, you will be by the end of this class. And if you've had access or you've needed to access the Alberta curriculum prior to this class, then it'll just be easy peasy for you. Okay. Everything in this class is done in Google Apps. So if you're word processing and you need to submit a word processed assignment to me, it must be in Google Docs. It cannot be a PDF. It cannot be a Microsoft Word document. And if you hand me in one of those instead of a Google Doc, I won't mark it. Okay, I'll give you a 0. All right. Whether you like Google or not, or you hate it or you love it, it is sort of your life. Almost all school districts use Google in their day-to-day teaching. So I think it's pretty imperative that you have an understanding how to use it. And that's the impetus for why the School of Education uses Google, and that you have a special Google or EDU email and all that jazz, is because we want to familiarize you with all aspects of Google, so that when you get into the classroom and your student teaching and your mentor teacher says, hey, would you add those assignments to Google Classroom, or will you make an assignment in Google Docs? You're going to be, no problem. Sure. I've done that before. I can do it now. Right. So, so just be aware of that everything we do is a Google app, whether it's a slideshow or a doc or whatever the case may be. Okay. Now there are a few other like apps or web-based softwares that we will use during the term, but the major stuff that we do again is in Google. I also encourage you, you do not have to, but I encourage you to use the Google's Chrome browser. Obviously, if we're using Google products, the browser is optimized for that software and stuff. But if you're a Safari person or a Microsoft person, if you want to use their browsers, knock yourself out. It really doesn't matter to me what one you use, but I will use Google Chrome only. and the things that I show you about Chrome browser or any tips and tricks will be for the Chrome browser and not every other browser out there in the whole wide world. Okay. All right. This is just a quick chart on the topics that we will cover throughout the term. Pardon me. They are not in any specific order. So don't go, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're not numbered for a reason, because there's no specific order there is a specific order, but this is not the order that we cover them in. Okay. So these are just the things that we will talk about. Most of these have an assignment or assignments that go with them, these topics. So like I said, by the end of term, you should be able to do or talk about any of these things that are on this chart. Okay. All right. If we scooch on down, which is probably what all students want to know the most, is how do I get graded in this class, Brad? Okay. Well, first of all, we will have a series of quizzes throughout the term, and those quizzes will be worth 25% of your mark. Even though there's another error here that got missed. Even though this one says 20, it is worth, all of them are worth 25% of your overall grade, and that will be divided amongst the different quizzes. So one quiz isn't worth more than the other. That's kind of idea that I'm getting at there. The next thing down is your assignments. So the assignments that we will be doing are worth 35 points. I do mention in here about a midpoint assignment portfolio. You don't really need to worry about that. Okay. If you've done all of the assignments, what will happen on February 17th is I will look at all of the assignments that are submitted, and especially the ones that I haven't graded yet. And I maybe will choose, sometimes I choose all of them, sometimes I choose some of them, and that will make up your, what I call your midterm kind of mark at the midpoint on February 17th. So don't, and I know I'll get a few emails about it, but that's okay. There is nothing for you to actually do other than just keep doing the assignments as they come. And then I mark them. If I don't mark an assignment, or I choose not to mark it, I will return it to you ungraded. Okay. And that's via Google Classroom. If I return it to you ungraded, what that means is that if that mark does not count, or that assignment does not count for or against your overall mark. Okay. And then of course, if there's any assignments that I return ungraded and you're like, man, I really wanted feedback on this from Brad, please ask, and I will totally, I wouldn't mind, I'll do that for you. Okay. So those two portfolio dates, one is on the 17th, and then one is on the last day of classes on the 14th. Okay. All assignments are due at noon. Okay. So you'll see in Google Classroom, it will always say 11:59 a.m. That's only because I'm too lazy to change it to 12 noon. So it'll be all of them are due at noon on the due date. Okay. I just mentioned this, that not all assignments may be marked, and the ungraded things. We talked about that. So all assignments have a rubric or a checklist that goes with them on, the criteria of what will, get you a good grade. Okay. If you don't submit the checklist, and a completed checklist or rubric, and some assignments have a rubric, some have a checklist, and some actually have both. Okay. If you don't submit one or the other or both of them to me completed, I will deduct 25% off your overall grade right off the top. Okay. Now, if you are familiar with the TQS, one of the areas of the TQS, TQS number 2, I believe it is, talks about, for you to be a competent teacher in the province of Alberta, you need to be a self-reflecting practitioner and look at what you're doing in the classroom. Look at, what overall what you're doing, and is it good? Is it bad? How could I improve it? All of that jazz. So that's sort of what I'm getting at with these checklists and rubrics. Now, I will be easy on you for the first little bit till you get used to the routine of doing that. And I will show you how I like them to be completed and all that jazz. So there won't be any mystery here. Okay, but you do need to submit it with whatever assignment it is that you are submitting, and you need to look at the rubric and go, oh, did I do that? Yep. Or look at the checklist and go, yep, I did that one, I did that one, I did that one, and show me that you've actually looked at the criteria and that you have actually submitted the assignment. So there, by doing that also, there should be really no reason you can't get 100% on every single assignment. Okay, because there's a whole bunch of things that we do. When we talk about the topic or whatever it is in the class, the concept, there's usually an assignment that goes with it. I always demo that assignment for you to show you how to do it. So we'll do a walkthrough. There's often, almost always, an exemplar of what it should look like when it's done. And then, of course, the rubric or checklist that tells you all of the elements that you need to have in this assignment to get a good mark. So that's why I'm a little bit sort of hard on you with this 25% deduction, is really, honestly, I just want you to get a good mark in this class. So look at the rubrics, look at the checklists, complete them. And if you're going, oh, geez, I didn't do that, then go back and do it so that you can get the top mark in it. All right. As far as late assignments go, especially on February 17th and April 14th, if you try to submit assignments after those two dates, I won't accept them. Okay. If you think, once you look at how many assignments there are in this class, and then you times that by the 3 sections that I'm teaching, that is a lot of assignments to mark, every week or however often I mark them. Okay. And so I really do try to get assignments back within about a 14-day period, sometimes quicker, sometimes a little bit slower, just depends on the nature of the assignment, of course, on how easy it is for me actually to mark it and on the tail end of the whole thing. Okay. So that's assignments. That's a lot of stuff. But of course, it's also the biggest chunk of your mark, I guess, other than the final, right? Now, the next thing here is your professional coding project is worth 5%. Each of these points are equal percentages. So your overall, at the end of the term, we will do a Scratch computer coding project, and it's due on the last day at noon, and it's worth 5% of your overall mark. The feedback I get on, if you're not familiar with Scratch coding or coding in general, you will be. And again, it is a big push by not only our provincial government to have kids proficient in coding, but it's also a federal initiative coming from the federal government that Canadian students need to know how to code. Okay. And this is not super complex coding. If you can drag and drop on your computer screen, you'll be a computer coder before you know it. Okay. So don't worry about that. And this is the last assignment that we do in the term. And like I said, often the feedback I get from students is that this is a really fun one, Brad. So, and I think you'll see that it's not super complicated. Okay. For those of you that are teaching or thinking about teaching K1, 2, there's actually also Scratch also has Scratch Junior for younger kids. But if you use a regular Scratch program, going down to Scratch Junior will be a piece of cake for you. Okay, and then a final exam. And I know that I'll explain this several times throughout the term, so I'll explain it now and then whenever else we need to do it. So the final exam is a 2-part exam. Well, actually, it's kind of 3-part, but we'll just say 2-part. Part 1 is multiple choice. So there'll be a series of multiple choice questions that you need to answer from the material that we've covered throughout the entire term. And that includes, you can see here, any readings, the lectures, any discussions, videos, presentations, assignments, quizzes, the whole deal. It will cover everything. And that will be multiple choice. The second part of the final exam is a hands-on part. So obviously in this class, there are things that like a knowledge component that you're supposed to take away. But there's also a hands-on component where you should be able to do some stuff in Google Docs and Google Slides and different pieces of software. You should be able to do that. So part 1 is a multiple choice. Part 2 is 2 hands-on activities that you'll be required to complete within the 3-hour period of the final exam. Okay, and as it says here, the final exam could have a variety of things: multiple choice questions, matching, short answer, hands-on, videos, and even an essay. Okay. But generally speaking, I can't think of the last time I had an essay question as a final exam, but you don't have to worry about that. So I want to see what you can do as a performance-based assessment, which is doing the activities, but I also want to know the cognitive part or the knowledge part as well. So that's the final exam. All right. One here, this one right here is all instructors, not just me, have the option that if you don't submit all the coursework in the class, So you don't submit all the assignments. I have the ability or the right to give you an incomplete, which means that you won't get a grade for this class until you finish all the assignments. So nobody wants to do that, be struggling through April and May or whatever, trying to finish assignments. And then also, if you're familiar with an incomplete grade, also that usually comes with a contract with like a completion date and all of that jazz. But I really haven't had to sort of implement that. Sorry, I'm just giving you an incomplete because you don't get your assignments done. I actually haven't had to do that in this class for a long time. Okay, we already talked about no assignments accepted. And then, of course, you are in college/university now. Spelling, grammar, punctuation is paramount. And not only that, it's paramount in our profession. So I'm, again, a little bit of a hard person on this, and I will deduct you marks for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. So please be mindful of that. I mean, there is grammar and spell check built right in to all of the softwares that we use. So please do not submit to me assignments that have 12 spelling mistakes. And that might sound like a lot, but I only say that number because I've seen assignments that have multiple problems, and students still submit them to me. So I am kind of a little bit of a stickler on that. And that's because, think of it this way. You send a newsletter home to your parents, telling them all the great things that you've done. But in that newsletter, you've got 5, 6, 10 spelling mistakes. What do you think that looks like to the parent? And especially if you are a teacher who's docking their child for spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors, but yet you send home stuff that's riddled with errors. That's not cool, right? And parents they'll call you on that. So like I said, I'm a bit of a stickler now, because not only are we at a university/college level, but we're also at this professional level that requires an eye for detail. Okay. As far as professionalism and classroom conduct goes, you know what? Here's the bottom line. Treat everybody with dignity and respect, online and offline, and you'll never have a problem. But we do have this little bit of a code of conduct here, which is based loosely on the code of professional conduct that is offered up via the ATA, which, if you follow education news, which the code of conduct has just been taken over by the UCP government, and now in the Professional Teaching Act or something like that, they list a whole bunch of things of what happens to teachers who break the rules. Okay. And so, like I said, if you treat everybody with dignity and respect, you'll never have a problem with the code of conduct. Okay. But if you do be naughty and you decide to be nasty to somebody, there are consequences, right? Again, you are in a professional job as a teacher. You're a professional, and you're expected to act accordingly. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that one. As far as grades go, here it is. This is the same breakdown in all your other classes, ed classes, except for EDUC 1500, which has a different grade scale. But all the other classes have this scale. So if you want to know what you need to do to get an A, there you go. That's what you need to do. 92 to 100 to get an A. Okay. And then an A plus. I haven't awarded one in the last couple of years, but prior to that, actually during COVID, when we were teaching all online, I had a whole bunch of people that got A pluses. And an A plus is reserved for those students that just really go above and beyond the call of duty on their assignments. We talked about rubrics, we talked about checklists. Those, of course, those are the minimum criteria, right? You can always do more, right? So if you want an A plus, then go above and beyond the call of duty. Okay. All right. As you'll notice in this class, of course, anything really, honest to God, on anything less than a C minus is not a pass. And let's just talk about this for 1 second, because you may or may not be familiar with this. So obviously these letter grades go on your transcript, right? And if you get any from a C minus up, what happens is that is what we call transferable. So any of you that might be going to another institution like U of A or U of L or who knows where, from a C minus all the way up, that is transferable. If you have a D or obviously an F, a D is not transferable. Okay, you'll get it's not a fail, but it's also not transferable. Many and most institutions will not give you credit for that class if you have a D in it. Okay, so just be aware of that. Obviously, no brainer, you don't get credit for courses that you fail. Okay, now the thing with an F, and we'll see a little bit later on, you should all now be familiar with withdrawing from a class as well. And if you withdraw from a class, you get a WD on your transcript. Okay, so just so that you know, a WD and an F both also can affect your ability to transfer to other places. They can also affect, and all of you or most of you are probably not even thinking about this yet, they also can affect your ability to get into a master's program or a PhD program, right? And right now you're all thinking, I just want to get through my BEd, Brad. But just so you can think ahead and know that the D's and F's and WDs can affect your ability to transfer and all those kinds of things. So just be very careful with that kind of stuff. And of course, it says right here, a D or a D plus may not transfer. Okay. All right. Next thing down is just our sort of tentative work schedule that we're going to do. I've also rated each assignment on their difficulty levels. So you can scooch through these just like I am. One thing I guess you should know is that these dates in this order is tentative. I'm actually going to, during week 2 here, we're gonna add a slideshow assignment in there. I sort of decided that after the fact, but I think that I'm gonna teach you and show you what a good slideshow looks like. Probably very contrary to what you've seen in the history of slideshows that you've been around. And then hopefully that not only will it help you in this class, but any other classes that you have that you got to do presentations and slideshows for, that may help you as well during the semester here. Okay, so I'm just going to scooch through all of this. I just cleverly color coded them all for you here. But and then of course there's just a little bit about, you know, submitting them late and all that jazz. Okay, now prior learning assessment, just for those of you that have taken courses in maybe in another institution and now are here at RDP, there is the ability to get prior learning recognition for a class that you might have taken before. And I'll just give you a really quick example on that. I just got one at the end of fall term from my associate dean. Said, hey, Brad, this student has taken this technology class at this institution. Is it close enough? And does it sort of match up with what you do in your class? And if it does, and this goes for any class, if it does match up close enough, you can get credit for that on your transcript and not have to take it again. So just so if you've done any classes from previous institutions and you're looking at the class going, man, it looks like this looks exactly like what I did at whatever, you could potentially get prior learning recognition for it. So just something for you to know. All the rest of this stuff is stuff that's on every single course outline at RDP. But I want to talk a little bit just about your responsibilities and your rights at RDP. Okay, so you as a student have the right to, you know, fair course and fair evaluations and fair everything, right? And so that's my job. But also from your end of things, you also have some responsibilities. And what I'm going to do, go down here, and please feel free to click on any of these links to go to those places. That's up to you. But this is really what we're getting at when we talk about these rights and responsibilities, is we're talking about this academic misconduct. So first of all, plagiarism, right? It is very easy to plagiarize in this day and age of technology that we have, because there's so much information out there. You can just literally go copy paste and throw that into an assignment and say it's your own. Well, I think you should all know that you can't do that. It's a big no-no, right? So you cannot take other people's ideas or their words or their pictures or anything that anybody else has done without their permission and then say, hey, it's mine. I did that. Look at me, right? So if you plagiarize and you get caught, there are consequences for that, which can range from getting a 0 on the assignment to getting booted out of RDP, right? If you get kicked out for academic misconduct, that will show up on your transcript And then from there on, good luck on getting into any post-secondary education institution when they see that you're a cheater. Nobody wants that. And again, you are in this professional area of education that you're expected to have this higher standard and behave accordingly. Okay. The one thing that I want to also to make sure that you know is, you know what? Here, I'm going to do a little cute little thing that you can do in Google Classroom here. I'm just going to do a poll. Okay. So hold on for a second. I'll ask you. It'll show up here on your screen in a second. Oops. Well, I think I spelled that right. It just be a yes or no question. You'll be able to see how everybody responds, but you won't be able to see how the individual, like who said what. Okay, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to launch. I'll show everyone the results. Okay. All right, so that poll is live. It should show up on your screen, and it's just a yes or no question. Did you know that you can plagiarize yourself? Ah, nice. Looks like everybody so far knew that. A couple people not. Well, that's why I mention it. So you can plagiarize yourself. And I'll for those people that answered no, I'll give you an example. Let's look at English 219 and English 220. So let's say in English 219, you write a paper, I don't know, pick a topic, doesn't matter, pick a topic in your head, and you write a paper on that. And then you get to English 219 or some other English course, and it's like, oh, I wrote a paper very similar, like this new course that I'm taking is asking me to write a paper. Man, the paper I wrote in 219 is a lot like that new one. I'm just going to use my old paper. You can't do that. That's plagiarism. Okay. I should say you can't do that without permission, right? So if you are going, man, I wrote some really good stuff in this old paper over here that I'd like to use in this new paper, just ask for permission. The worst that your instructor can say is no. Right. So, but if you use words or all or part of something you've already written in a new assignment, that's plagiarizing yourself. So just so you know that. Okay. And then of course cheating. Well, I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, if you cheat on an exam or anything that you're required to do, that has a lot of that speaks to your integrity. Right. And again, we're in a profession where integrity is pretty much everything, right? Your reputation. So, and again, same consequences for plagiarism that go with cheating, anywhere from a 0 on whatever it is that you cheated on to getting booted out, right? So please, 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 it's just not worth it. Just don't do it. Okay. Attendance. Now, I know that every class or some classes are different. I don't have an attendance policy here. We're online. You probably noticed I didn't take attendance today, but one of the things that happens in Google Classroom is once I hang up and all that jazz, Google Classroom actually gives me an attendance report. Okay, it tells me it tells me a couple things. It tells me when you logged on and when you logged off, or sometimes I know your connection drops off on your Wi-Fi or whatever. It tells me how many times you logged in, logged out, all that kind of jazz. So that's why I'm not doing attendance right now. I will do it after class to see who was here or not. But just so that you know that. So I don't do attendance. There is no attendance mark. But obviously, if you don't show up, I can tell you right now, the people last term who failed this class are people who didn't show up. Okay. So if you don't show up, obviously there's a lot of things you're going to miss. And it's even if you watch the recording, it's different than sort of the live performance kind of thing. So just be sure that you go to all your classes, because again, that's usually the way you get a bad mark, is by not showing up, and obviously not doing assignments too. Okay, final exams. Our final exam, I already explained it, but it will be a scheduled final exam done by the registrar's office, and then posted into the Loop, in your Loop account, like they always are. Okay. Is there anybody? I'm not going to do a poll. Is there anybody here that this is their first semester right now? Mason, you, okay, a couple of you, okay. So, so probably be in March, I think. In March, I can't remember, I don't know the exact date, but in March, what the registrar will do is they will post a final exam schedule in your Loop account. And then you can go to, it'll show you in your Loop account your classes and what day, what time, where the location of your exam is. This one will be online because our class is online. So it'll be online, but it will also give you the date and the time that we're going to write those exams. So if if this is your first semester, there's a week-long exams run from 9 a.m. till well, literally 10 p.m. because there are 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. final exams as well, and they run for the whole week. So after classes are done. So this class's time and date and all that jazz will be posted like all other classes. Okay. Later missed assignments. I deduct, this again might sound hard, but it's just because I have the volume of assignments that I have to mark in a semester. If it's late, I will potentially, or I could, if I choose to do so, deduct 25% per day. Usually I'm pretty easy on you up to the midpoint, like till when we get to reading week in February. After that, I'm not so easy on you on late assignments and stuff like that. Or if you're a chronic person who always is handing in things late, I may not give you a break on that either. So I'm usually pretty flexible and pretty easygoing. But if I feel like you're taking advantage of me, then that's why we have this kind of a thing in the course outline. Okay. So, and if you need an extension, please feel free to ask me for an extension. Not the day the assignment's due, though. It says right here, if you need an extension, give me a couple days notice and I'll say yes, or I can't even think of a time I've actually said no. Okay. And I understand we're all busy. We've got school, and I know this is not your only class. This just like this is not my only class. You've got family and work and life commitments, just like I do. So if we're fair to each other, we're going to have a great semester. And again, respect, dignity, right? It's a two-way street. So just think about that kind of thing. So again, obviously, if it's a 25% per day deduction, after 4 days, you've lost all your marks and you'll get a 0. Okay. So, and then on assignments also is, because again, the volume assignments that I get in a semester, sometimes I don't write, or you might get it and go, man, Brad didn't give me enough feedback on this. If you feel like you get an assignment back and you get a grade and you're like, man, I didn't get enough feedback, you could just ask me and I'll give you more. Okay. I realize, again, this is my 20th year doing this, and so I kind of get what's going on. A lot of you are just like, just give me the mark, Brad, up, whatever, right? So that's great. I know there's some of you out there that'll just be happy with your mark and not need any other feedback. But if you need more feedback about your mark, and again, if you're thinking that he didn't give me enough feedback, I want more, just ask and I'll give you more. Okay. So again, I don't want you to walk away from this class going, I didn't get what I needed from this class, right? But if you're not getting what you needed, the only way that I can fix that is if you tell me that, right? And I can't fix it if you are feeling that way throughout the whole semester, that you're not getting what you needed, and then you just bash me on my SFI. That doesn't help either, because even if I get a bad SFI, folks, I'm not getting fired. So that kind of idea. So, I mean, it's always things for me to work on and improve on, and giving good feedback and timely feedback is every teacher's, instructor's goal, right? Is to try to do that. So again, let's have a good communication back and forth. And if you're, like I said, if you're not getting what you need, let me know and we can fix it. Okay. All right. Next piece down here, student supports. And on here is the whole idea is if you need any kind of, really almost any kind of help, there's a service at RDP that can help you with that. So if you need counseling for anything, you're feeling anxious, you're depressed, whatever the case may be, there's people at the college or at the Polytechnic that can help you. Okay. They can help you with writing, they can help you with resumes, they can help you with personal things. Also, if you're a person who suffers from, let's say, test anxiety, you can go and get what they call accommodations, and which could be extra time. It could be someone to read it to you. It could be someone to write it. Like, there's a whole gamut of things that you can get. So if you have any problems, there's somebody here that will help you. And if you don't know who to go to, you can ask me or literally any one of your education instructors, or actually any instructor really at the college. Sorry, I keep saying college, at the Polytechnic, that should be able to help you. Okay. Also, as far as recording the class goes, I record it anyways, but if for some reason you want to do your own recording, knock yourself out. Okay. It is a rare occasion that something goes wrong and this recording, I don't know, there's some kind of a glitch and it doesn't work. Again, probably 99% of the time or more, everything works just fine there. But there has been in the past, once in a while, for whatever reason, something between my computer and Google screws up the recording. So, okay. So we talked about recording and all that jazz. So because I'm recording, one of the other things that you should know is that, especially if you put on your video or whatever on for your own computer, and I'm going to see you and you're going to see me, that whatever's in the background, especially if it's stuff that you don't want people to see, you should not have that available for people to see. Okay, so make sure that when your camera's on, people can't see stuff that you don't want them to see. Okay, that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, I think that's about it there. All right, let's just go down here. So obviously today you're here. You know that today's the first day of classes for winter term. The last day to add or drop is the 17th. Okay, so again, if you're not familiar with that wording, you can let's say you're like, oh man, this class looks like Brad's classes, this is too much for me this term. You can drop this class right now. Okay, no penalty, nothing on your transcript. But on January 18th, if you drop this class, you don't get a tuition refund. Okay, but on the other side of that coin is, let's say you drop a class and you're like, okay, I'm not going to take this one this term, I'm going to take this other class instead. You can add or drop a class sort of freely until January 17th. Okay, we talked about reading week break already. That is on the 20th of February is Family Day, so the Polytechnic is closed, and then we have the rest of that week for what we call reading week, or fondly known is going skiing week, or going to the beach week. But it is intended for you to kind of catch up on your assignments and all that jazz if you need to. Okay, so during that week there are no credit classes, and you would have to check with any of your instructors to make sure they're available, or their availability, because some people do take holidays and stuff during that time as well. For me, it is called marking my brains out week. So that's what happens during reading week for me. Okay, and most instructors too. So by March 1st, no matter what class you're taking, whether it's this class or any other class, you should understand and have had feedback from your instructor about where you're standing in that class. Like, how am I doing? Am I passing? Am I going to fail? Like that kind of idea. No one's going to say, oh, hey, by the way, I'll just pick on Grace. You're doing really bad right now. You're probably going to fail. Nobody's going to tell you that. But the midterm feedback's for you to be able to go through your grades and then say, okay, here's how I'm doing. Okay. And again, if any instructor has not given you that feedback by March 1st, it is your right. We talk about student rights again. It is your right to request that feedback. Okay. So just so you know that. March 7th, I don't know day of the week that is, but that is emergency response day. And if you're on campus, that could be anything from a fire drill to a lockdown. I think, what else do we do? A fire drill, lockdown. I can't remember. There's a couple other ones that they do too. Okay, but you just follow the instructions of your instructor and you'll be good to go. Okay, and if it's a fire drill or lockdown, I'm sure all of you are familiar with those kinds of exercises anyways, so it'll all be good. Okay, there we go. March 17th, final exam schedule is posted, and again, that will be in your Loop account. Okay, and every course that you have that has a final exam will be listed there with the date and time and location. Okay. April 1st, April Fool's Day, is the first day to apply for winter 2024. Okay. Up to you to figure that out. April 7th is Good Friday. The Easter Bunny's coming, right? Then April 10th is some closure. I don't know what that date is. Anyways, there's no credit classes, but the college, the Polytechnic, will be open. Okay. And then April 14th is the last day of classes. It is also your last day to WD. So we talked about WDs and Fs before. Both aren't great, but if you got to choose between an F and a WD, pardon me, a WD is a better option than failing. Okay. So the registrar gives you to literally the last day of classes to decide whether you want a WD or not. And again, WD means withdraw, right? So again, if you're not doing well in a class and it's going to affect your GPA for, funding or whatever it might be, a WD could potentially be an option for you. Okay. All right. April 19th then is the first day of final exams. And remember, it could be anywhere from starting at 9 a.m. or all the way up till 10 p.m. at night finish time. So be careful with holiday plans. Be careful with work schedules, personal schedules, all of that jazz, because the registrar does not give extensions or let you write a deferred exam unless you have a really good reason. Okay, so just make sure you keep the 19th to the 24th blocked off in your personal calendars, so that you know not to be shipping off to Mexico for that well-deserved vacation. Okay, and then by the end of April, on the 28th, all your final grades should be available from all of your classes, so that you know what your academic standing is and all of that jazz. Okay, and of course, because you're an education student, that your final grades for this first year can also affect your ability to get into second year of education. So just make sure that you're aware of that. Okay, what else we got here? Oh yes, course outline changes. Of course, I'll give you an example again, especially for the new folks. Is if we go all the way back up here to what things are worth, this is usually where the problems occur between instructors and students. So let's say somewhere along the way I said, you know what, I want the final exam to be 50% now. I am not allowed to do that. Okay, so I can't make any change to this course outline unless we vote on it as a class, and that vote is 51%. So it's like democracy at its best, right? Majority rules. And so what that means, though, is that let's say a week from now, I decide I want the final exam to be 50%, and only 10 people show up for class that day, but 6 of those people say, yeah, sure, Brad, that's a great idea. Let's make it 50%. Then all of you have to live with that decision. Okay. I typically don't make changes during the semester on those kinds of things. They're pretty set in stone for me. But in any of your classes, if an instructor is making any kind of change to the course outline, it has to be voted on by the class. Okay. All right. And then, of course, based on COVID and all the other viruses and bugs that are going around these days, if for some reason things go crazy again, there is a potential for classes to be moved to online. But for this class, you don't have to worry about that. We're already doing online, right? Okay, now, not one single person wrote a chat message. That's okay. So let me just say, are there any questions about the course outline? And right initially, I mean, I know that you haven't read it word for word, or nor have I, but are there any questions about anything that I've talked about? Okay, so the first thing to add to your calendar, whatever calendar you use, is course outline quiz. Today is the 9th. Oh, so this is a good example. We will have a course outline quiz on the 16th. So next Monday, we will have a course outline quiz. Okay, now don't panic, because I only talk about the big rocks, like questions like, what is your final exam worth? 35%, Brad. Right. Okay, big things like that. I'm not going to ask you, geez, in the student rights and responsibilities section in the third paragraph about plagiarism, what does it say? I'm not going to ask you that. But I might ask you, is it cool to do plagiarism, or is it cool to plagiarize or not? Or, what's the consequence of cheating? A, B, C, D kind of idea. Okay. So don't panic. It's not a high stakes exam. We will actually end up doing it together. But it is your responsibility to be aware of what is in the course outline and what is expected of you, and also what's expected of me. An excuse, or there's never an excuse, especially in an appeal situation, for a student to say, I didn't know, especially if it's on the course outline. Okay, so if you're saying, Brad, that's not fair, you deducted 50% off my mark because it was 2 days late, I didn't know that. Well, it's in the course outline, so you should have known that, right? Whether I talked about it or not, you should know about that. So just so you're aware of that kind of stuff. All right, since there, what is the passing grade for this class? Where did that go? Whoop, wrong way, Brad. Right there is the grade breakout. So the passing grade, well, I mean, the passing grade is 50, right? But you're going to get a D. So that means that you passed the course, but again, remembering that it may not be transferable to any other institution if you get a D, right? I mean, so that really 50 is really the pass. But I mean, if you want a grade that is transferable to another institution, it has to be at least a 60 or a C minus. Okay. So that's what the passing grade in this class is. And I'll show you also here in a second, you can refer to this grade chart. I've got this also put into Google Classroom for you. Easy place to find it instead of having to go back to the course outline. Okay. No problem, for sure. Okay. I'm going to close this up then, and I'm going to go to Google Classroom. Okay. I'm going to move. I am logged in here and as a student. So I'm going to show you kind of both views here. So this is what you should be looking at under classwork. Now, I know that there are a few of you that are new students this term. So I'm going to go over this as if everyone was a new student. So if you're familiar with Google Classroom already, this is going to be a review. And if you're not, this is something you should listen to for sure. Okay, so first thing in Google Classroom, when you arrive at a screen that looks like this. Now I've got lots of classes on there, but you would arrive and have a screen that has this class on it. Obviously you click on it, but one of the things that I want you to notice is that any assignment that is due within the next 7 days shows up and shows you that there are assignments that are due. Okay, so from here, the best thing to do is just to go into the class, and you always arrive at the stream. Again, if this is your first rodeo with Google Classroom, this is kind of like your Facebook feed kind of idea. The only drawback on this is that once Brad posts something, as the semester progresses, things get lost way far down. And right now it's not a big deal. It's not a big click to get back and forth top to bottom. But as the semester progresses, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is in the stream. So I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing that I ever post deliberately to the stream is the class code to get to next week's class or whatever. And I will always post that 10 minutes before the class starts so that you can get in. Okay. The code does change every class, every class, for us every week then. Okay. And again, what you can see here is you can see the classes that are coming up. If you wanted to see if there's more, which there are, you can click view all, and that will take you to this. Okay. So anything that's got a due date and a time will show up here. Okay. And it will show you whether it's graded. It'll show you things that don't have due, like all that kind of stuff is there. Okay. I just got to adjust my blind here for 1 second. Everybody, hold on here. The sun's shining right in my face. There we go. All right. Okay. So let me just go back here. All right, so that is the stream. So really, that is all you need to do is look for the code, and there, it'll show you that you have assignments due. The other thing that you can do here is you can click this little I, and it just gives you a little bit more information about the class, but nothing important. Okay, really, where all the important stuff happens is under the classwork button or tab or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so again, this is what you should be seeing right now. You should be seeing that you've got assignment 1, 2, 3, and 4 due by January 13th. So that's the end of the week by noon. Okay, none of this stuff is hard. I'll explain it all in a second. Okay, you also see that there are some things here. How to complete a checklist. So I talked about completed checklists and completed rubrics for this class. This video will show you how to do that. Okay, and how you do that really honestly doesn't matter to me, as long as I can look at your rubric or you look at your checklist and go, oh yeah, there it is, I see it, right? Whether you use an emoji, whether you use the highlighting tool, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, so check that video out because it's an important one, especially if you don't want to lose marks for this kind of stuff. Okay, and then if you've got questions, then I can answer them afterwards. How to submit an assignment as a student. So if I were to go, we don't really have any kind of assignments like that. Well, I'll show you here right now. Okay, so I'll just pretend this is our first assignment. So in each assignment, what you're going to see is there will be, usually is a video, there usually is an exemplar, and there usually is a checklist or a rubric at a bare minimum. Okay, so I'm just going to go view assignment. And this little box right up here is really the one that's where all the magic happens, is at least as far as submitting assignments goes. So if you have something to submit, then you would go add or create, and then it'll say, well, what do you want to add or create? Well, usually you've already got it done. So what you typically do is you go add from Google Drive, you find the file or the assignment that you've been working on, and you add it. Okay. Now for this Google profile picture one, there is nothing for you to actually submit. But how will I know whether you've got this assignment done or not? I will be able to see your little picture up here in the corner. And the other thing that I'll be able to see, and I'll just show you, this is the instructor view here, is when I go to people, all of these people that I can see their pictures of already have passed the assignment and get the marks for it. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for here, is your picture. How do you do that? Very simply, and there's a video for it as well, but I'll just show you here. All you do is go up here to your picture, and you click the little picture button, and you can either add one that you've got on your computer, you can take a picture, whatever you want to do, but you can add a picture there. Okay, this should be a fairly identifiable picture. Okay, it shouldn't be your cat. It shouldn't be, well, here, I'll really give you a great example. It shouldn't be some little picture like that, because that is not what Brad McDermott looks like. Well, maybe on some days, but not every day, right? So it should be a picture. This is the only way I get to identify you right here. The only way I know what Kendall looks like, because I've never met Kendall, is there's a picture there of her. Okay, so the same thing would go as if you were a teacher in your own classroom. Some parents you may not meet until November, but they would like to know what the teacher looks like, or who is that teacher, right? So knowing how to add this picture there is part of the professionalism part of what we do. So I'd like you to do that, and I'd like you to add that a picture of yourself. It's easy peasy. Just give me a head and shoulders shot, and away you go. You're good to go. Okay. So, oops, hold on a sec. Let me go back here. All right. So that's one of your first assignments, is to add that picture. Okay. The next one is this names and faces assignment. And I can see, I'm just going to click on this. I'm just going to show you that some of you have already added your picture. So thank you very much. And so I want you to add a picture and your first and last name so that I can see who you are, right? So if I pass you in the hallway and I go, hey, how you doing, Mason, or whoever it is, right? I'll know who you are. So on this one, all you got to do is just delete my little cartoon picture here and add your own picture and stuff in there, just like these folks have done. Okay. So that's that assignment. And again, that's due on Friday at noon as well. This one is, where in the world are you born? Since we are not meeting face to face and we can't really talk back and forth before class or after class, what I've done here is I've created a Google map. And on this Google map, let me just zoom out here for 1 second. I would just like to know where you were born, right? I don't need to know the exact street address or anything like that. But as you zoom in here, I'll just show you here. I'll just use my example. Right now, I'm the only person that was born in Edmonton. And you keep zooming, you'll eventually find out that I was born at the, where am I here? Oh my goodness, where's my pin? Second, hold on here. I lost my pin. Just a second. There we go. Right there. I was born. I guess to zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Whoops. I was born at the Misericordia Hospital. Okay, and that's all I need to know. I don't care. Again, you don't need to give me like super duper detail, but I do need to, when I click on this pin, it should bring up your name, right? So, or if I click on Madison over here, it will show me that Madison was born, where were you born, Madison? At the Red Deer Regional Hospital. Okay, so just a fun little assignment to kind of get to know each other, that kind of idea. Plus, it also gives you an opportunity, social studies teachers, to use Google Maps. Okay, so, and again, with this assignment, if we go back to it again, there is a 1 minute video here of how to add a marker or a pin. What if you want to call it a pin? Okay, so do that, and again, that's due Friday at noon. And then please introduce myself is using a web-based software called Flip. So again, because we're not meeting face-to-face, this is a way for me to find out who you are. So there are 10 questions that you have to answer in 90 seconds or less. And you can read as well as I can here. I can make that a little bit bigger too. Here in a second. There you go. These questions right here. What's your name? What program are you in? What year are you in? All of that jazz. And you can answer that in 90 seconds or less. That gives us an opportunity. Pardon me. Oh, I'm going to go in as a teacher here. Sorry. Just 1 sec here. I haven't done one as my demo student person yet. That's not what I wanted to do either. That's what I wanted to do. There we go. All right. So when there's these things like this that we're going to do that are online or web-based, just use your EDU account. Then you don't have to remember passwords and stuff like that. So you can see that there's 3 of us. There's my little video that I've done just to introduce myself a little bit. And so that's what I'm going to do. This is sort of the substitute for the face-to-face thing that would go like this. There's somebody sitting beside you. So you know the old thing is introduce yourself to the person beside you. All right, the other person introduces themselves. And then both of you stand up and I go, hi, I'd like to introduce Chloe. Chloe, blah, 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 right? So this is kind of that way, but we're just doing it in a video format. Now, I know some of you are going, oh, video, I hate video. Don't worry. It's all good. We're all gonna think, I don't think I look that great, right? Or I don't like the sound of my voice. We're all there. That's okay. All of us probably feel that way. Okay. But also the nice thing about Flip, this is a piece of software, a piece of online software that you can use for a lot more than just introductions. So for example, think of it this way. You have a student who's not good at reading or writing or both, or they might have dyslexia, or they might have some other learning exceptionality, okay? What a perfect platform to have a video, ask the questions that you want your students to answer, and give them the opportunity to answer as a video instead of having to write it down or type it or whatever other media that you would use. Because even a child that has got the worst writing or the least ability to decode a written question, they all know how to talk, right? So you can use this platform for instances like this. So it's not only just to get to know you, hi, I'm Brad kind of thing. There's a lot of other applications that you could use software like this with students that have exceptionalities, or you could just use it for everybody. It doesn't have to be for just special people. Okay, so that is the Flip assignment that is under classwork. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to my student account, because again, you're not submitting an actual video file, and that because the video resides on the Flip website. All you're going to do, let me just go back to my student account here. All you're going to do, hold on for 1 second here. All you're going to do when it comes to I'll just make this smaller now. When it comes to this, is you are going to go mark as done. So when there's not a physical file from Google Drive or a PDF or something that you're going to submit, you can just mark it as done. Okay, and then that shows me that you're done on time, kind of idea. So again, here, again, this is a great example because you're not submitting an actual movie file or a video file, and I have to go to the Flip website. The only way that you can show me as the instructor that, hey, Brad, I've done the assignment is by clicking mark as done. Okay. The other thing you can do with assignments is you can add a private comment. Okay. And that is between you and I only. And so you can do that. If you have questions or you need an answer to something, a private comment is not the way to go. Okay. You could add the private comment, but then what I would recommend is that you go to remind and send me a remind message saying, hey, Brad, I added a private comment on my please let me introduce myself assignment. Can you please check it out? And I will. But if you put it there, I don't get alerts or notifications saying, oh, hey, I'm going to pick on here. Haley left you a private comment. I have that turned off because otherwise my email just blows up with, hey, Haley said this, Haley said that, or so-and-so. Okay. So if you need to use a private comment part, then go ahead and do it. But you need to then kind of let me know another way that you've added a private comment that you want me to look at. Okay. The one private comment that is common in this class is if I give you an extension. I will always tell you, hey, when you submit the assignment, okay, sure, you can hand it in next Friday. Sure, that's fine. But in the private comments, please add in there, say, hey, Brad, just remember that you gave me an extension on the assignment so that I don't give you a penalty for handing it in late. That is probably the most common private comment that I use between myself and students. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you can't put other private comments down there as well. All right. Okay, let's go back here. So back to classwork. So that's your first kind of week's worth of assignments. Okay, and one of the things that's going to come up in questions is, hey, Brad, my screen doesn't look anything like yours. How come I can't see assignment week 7? Well, as a student, and you'll learn why, because one of our actual assignments in this class is how to use Google Classroom as the teacher. But I only release week by week. Okay, so that's why you can only see this much stuff, when on Brad's screen you can see everything right up to the final exam. Okay, so if I'm scrolling through here and you're going, hey, I can't see that on my screen, that's generally speaking, that's because I haven't released it yet for you as a student. Okay. Also here, all assignments due dates are listed sort of in this third column. Okay. Also, you can go up to view my work. This is also where you find your grade. Okay. So you can go there and you can see that it's assigned. And now as as the term progresses, you'll see your mark there. Also, one of the words that you'll see here is missing. So that means that if you didn't submit this assignment, it will say that is missing. Okay, so and that's a great tool for you, but it's also a really great tool for parents, right? Because one of the cool features in Google Classroom as the teacher is that when I go to people, I can invite, well, you're all adults, so you don't have to worry about this, but if you were a grade 6 student, I could invite your parents to the Google Classroom and they could see all the info about your assignments and how you're doing and all that jazz, which is a really powerful tool to use with communicating with parents, so that a parent can never say to you as the teacher, well, why didn't you tell me my kid was failing your class? That's not fair that you failed them now. I could have helped them, blah, 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 right? So if you invite the guardians or, parent, guardian, grandma, grandpa, whoever the guardian is, then that person, that adult, will have the ability to see the student's grades. Okay, this feature though is only available if your Google administrator turns it on. So if you end up in your K-12 situation and you've got your classroom and you're using Google Classroom and you want to have this feature but you don't see it, you'd have to ask the IT people to turn it on for you. And I think it usually K-12, most people have it turned on. Okay, because it's a really powerful tool or powerful way for you to keep in contact with parents. Okay, all right. there's that part. Let's go back to classwork. Just before we talk about anything else, the other thing that you should know is that all of these assignments that have due dates and times will appear in your Google Calendar. So all of these things right here, and this is, again, I'm in my demo student one. When it shows up here, there we go. Right there, you'll see here on Friday, it shows me all of the assignments that I have due. Now, I'm a demo student in all of my classes, so all of my assignments show up. But here, let's just go by day. There we go. So if you have this in your calendar and you click on it, it gives you a link directly to the assignment. Okay. So again, from the teacher point of view, there shouldn't be an excuse from any of you that said, hey, Brad, I didn't know that assignment was due on that day or that time or whatever, because it's all in your Google Calendar, and it's also in Google Classroom, and it's also under View My Work. Right? So from a teacher point of view, there should never be an excuse of I didn't know from my students. Okay. And of course, if for some reason, I don't know, some weird reason that it didn't show up in your Google Calendar, then of course we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. All right. This last little piece here is, so there's this course admin. I am assuming that since you're here, you have signed up for a Remind. If you have not, please do that as soon as possible, because that's where all the goods get posted to. So if you want to be sort of know what's going on in the class, or something that Brad needed to remind you about, it's all there. Okay. There's a copy of the course outline right here. So if you want to refer to it, it's there. Of course, obviously, because we have a course outline quiz, you might want to check it out. Okay. Again, if you want to know how the grades go in this class, you don't have to go to the course outline. It will show up here for you. Okay. I just made a new one, all nice and colorful. Okay. All right. Also down here is stuff about APA, right? Students are always asking about APA. There are only a very few instances in this class that I will ask you for something that is an APA format. I'm usually kind of fudge the rules a little bit on APA, but I will let you know if you need to use, formal APA or some other Brad system. That I got a couple other ways that I do things too. Okay, so again, when directed by your instructor, this is, if I said you need to use APA format, this is the stuff that you would need to do. Okay. And if you're not familiar with APA format and you're going, oh man, why aren't we using Chicago? Well, the reason for that is because in the education world, education programs all over the place use APA format. That is the standard for the education world, just like Chicago is a standard for like the English or the arts world and that kind of stuff. Okay. And yes, it is confusing. And yes, the other thing that it's not only is it sometimes confusing, sometimes it changes quite often. Okay. Couple things in here. So most of this stuff all the way up to here, these first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things all talk about formal APA citations and stuff like that. But there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to do that are a little bit different. One is, how do you cite computer code? Because you can borrow computer code just like you can borrow a paragraph from somebody else's essay, right? So when we cross that bridge, this is the format, and this is APA format, but this is the format that you would need to use. Okay, don't worry about it right now, but when we get to the Scratch one, you might want to use it. And then the other one that we use that is really literally Brad format is this, when we use or go and use curriculum outcomes from the programs of study. There we go. This is the format that I would like you to use. And again, we'll talk more about it. This is not memorize this now and we'll never talk about it again. And so here, this is the sort of the format that I like you to use when you're writing lesson plans or using outcomes in the stuff that you're working on. Okay. And like I said, again, we will talk more about it when those assignments actually come up. Okay. So that's the citation format piece. There's a link here to the TQS. Like I said, we're going to talk lots about TQS. Here's a kind of a quick poster. And then here's the whole TQS document from Alberta Education. Okay. And then the last one is our land acknowledgement that I'm sure you're all aware of, that we're on Treaty 7 land, and part of Central Alberta also falls under Treaty 6 land, and that you're just aware of that. Okay. All right. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. Questions, thoughts, fears? None? Well, that's pretty good. All right. Okay. All right. So by Friday, you have these 4 assignments to do. Okay. So I'm not going to tax you too much. There are no readings right now for you to do. There are these videos that you could or should probably watch as well. And from a student point of view, other than and then also the course outline quiz, which, okay, I'll show you right now as the teacher. I'm going to go back to there. And week 2. So here is just a little how-to here. So we're going to go create a quiz assignment. We're going to call this course outline. Oh, come on. Where did you go? Course outline quiz. Okay, I'm going to put instructions there. I'm not going to use a blank quiz. We're going to do something else. And then in here, I just say that it's under quizzes. Right now, let's make it worth 5. Whoops, just make it worth 5 marks. Okay, due date is going to be on the 16th. And you can see why I use 11:59 instead of actually noon. And it will be under week number 2. There we go. Okay, there's no rubric. There's an option for you to add a rubric, but then I have to make it. I have other ones. And then the last thing as a teacher I'm going to do here is I'm going to go assign. Okay, so then what happens now? Actually, I'll do this on the student view. What happens now? Let me just refresh my screen here. Will it show up? It should show up. There we go. Under week 2 is a course outline quiz. And don't forget, the other thing that should happen is in your Google Calendar on the 16th, it should say course outline quiz. Okay. All right. All right. Thoughts, last chance for thoughts, comments, etc., because I'm going to let you go as soon as we're done. Everybody's good? Okay. This is how I also end my class. I say, if you need to take off and go to another class or you're done with me for today, you can head out. If you have anything you want to talk about or discuss, you can stick around and I will be around to help you do that. So other than that, it was nice sort of meeting you all, and we'll see you next week. All right, let me just close that window up. You're very welcome, everyone. Thank you. All right, there's 3 of you left. Do any of you have questions?
Hey, Brad, I actually just have a quick question for you. Do you know if the new 4-year Bachelor of Education program is a degree from, are they working with any other university, or is it just a degree from RDP?
It is a degree from RDP. It's an accredited, fully transferable degree that's will be recognized everywhere.
Oh, okay, perfect. That was my question.
Yep.
Perfect.
You bet. It's it's about a 2 to 3 year process to get a degree approved, and so yeah, our BEd degree is as good as any other BEd degree across the country.
And it's recognized with the Alberta Teachers Association as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Kirk or Jaylene, do you got a question? No? Okay, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to head out as well. But if you have anything, you can always reach me via email or via remind. Okay. Hey, Brad, thanks for the class. Yeah, Kirk, that would probably be your best bet. because those folks down there are the ones that are really the experts on it. I can answer general questions, but anything that's like really specific, they're the folks that have all that information for you. Okay, perfect. And Jalen, are you good? All right.